In early March of this year, Marvel finally released their first female superhero film. After 20 movies, they have finally got to the women of the Marvel Universe. Marvel have thankfully littered their movies with great supporting female characters throughout the years, but it surprised me it's taken them this long to do a solo film. They had announced a Captain Marvel movie back in 2013, but it's taken a while for them to actually get the production moving forward, as they struggled to see how Captain Marvel would fit in the Avengers narrative, and it could come across as being a bit shoehorned in for the final chapter with the current crop of characters. But that may not be the case once we finally see Avengers Endgame in April. Captain Marvel was made with a pretty hefty budget of $152 million, and directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, who have directed a number of dramas such as Half Nelson, Sugar and Mississippi Grind. It seems the movie is doing very well at the box office, like most of the Marvel movies do. It seems the negative press surrounding it hasn't affected people's desires to watch it. I'm not very familiar with the Captain Marvel character of the Marvel comics. I know it's gone through many incarnations over the years and the character has changed a lot. For me as a kid, the Captain Marvel I knew was the DC Comics character who now goes by the name Shazam. As Marvel Comics licensed the Captain Marvel name in the 60s, DC Comics could no longer use it and chose just to use the name Shazam. However, the Captain Marvel name still stuck with the DC Comics character until DC launched the New 52 in 2011 and finally committed to just calling him Shazam, dropping the Captain Marvel name altogether. And it's surprising a month later from now we are getting a Shazam movie, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. So after much hype, is the movie actually any good? Well, it's perfectly fine. Like the majority of Marvel origin movies, it ticks all the boxes for what is needed and sticks to its familiar formula. The story starts on the Kree planet of Hala. Star Force member Veers, aka Captain Marvel, played by Brie Larson, suffers from reoccurring nightmares involving her past, which she can't piece together. Yon-Rogg, her mentor and commander played by Jude Law, trains her to control her abilities and to keep her emotions in check. Veers and Yon head out on a mission to rescue an undercover operative and run into a group of shape-shifting aliens known as Skrulls. The mission goes wrong and Veers is kidnapped and has her memory probed as the Skrulls are seeking information from her past. She escapes from them and finds herself on Earth, smashing into a blockbuster in LA. It's revealed it's 1995 and S.H.I.E.L.D. has been alerted to her presence. Fury teams up with Veers to help solve her past and track down the Skrulls, who are now in disguise and hunting her down. My expectations for this film weren't particularly high. As I mentioned, I wasn't familiar with the character. I never read the comics, the trailers were unspectacular really. I just kept thinking of the Green Lantern, seeing her as a pilot then getting these superpowers. But expectations aside, I for the most part quite enjoyed it. The film has a bit of a muddled and messy opening act. Well, it doesn't really have a solid opening, it just starts and keeps skipping from past to present, but once the story gets moving and we end up on Earth, the story seems to find its footing and works very well. Brie Larson as Captain Marvel does a solid job playing this heroic character and balancing the humour and emotional beats in the story. She has good screen presence and is a fine actor. Samuel L. Jackson appearing without his eye patch and de-aged thanks to brilliant visual effects, the same software I imagine used to de-age Downey in Civil War and Kurt Russell in Guardians 2. Jackson seems to be having the most fun he has had in a Marvel film. For once he has been given a bigger role in the series, instead of playing a supporting character who turns up now and again to dish out mission objectives or tell people off. He and Larson have good chemistry on screen and the banter between them works. Jude Law is always a pro on camera and turns in a memorable performance, but the highlight of the film for me is Ben Mendelsohn as the shape-shifting alien Talos. Ben is such a great actor and seems to be the go-to guy for playing the villain. He was brilliant in Rogue One and Ready Player One. His makeup is a bit uninspired, however. He looks like a random alien from Star Trek The Next Generation, but thankfully his performance shines through the makeup. As with all superhero movies, you've got to have some epic action, and Captain Marvel sadly doesn't deliver on that. It's perfectly serviceable, and they don't let it get in the way of the story, but it's nothing you haven't seen before. The fight scenes are covered in a lot of close-ups with fast editing, so you spend half the time wondering what's going on. The big finale, seeing Carol use her powers to the fullest, is some nice eye candy, but you are not looking at it and going, wow, that looks real. It's just a nicely animated CGI sequence. The visual effects throughout are consistent and are above average in quality, with the most impressive being the de-aging of Samuel L. Jackson. The score to the film was produced by composer Pinar Toporag. She has already dabbled in the superhero genre with the TV series Krypton. The score does a fine job complementing the scenes and thankfully doesn't get drowned out by the sound effects, and is also allowed to shine through on the sound mix. Pinar makes use of a full orchestra and synthesizers that work well throughout. The main theme for Captain Marvel is okay, nothing special. You aren't going to walk out of the cinema humming any themes or remembering any of the music to make you want to rush out and buy the score, but what I heard, especially the electronic pieces of music, I was happy to hear. The photography isn't particularly spectacular. A lot of the interior scenes set on the spaceship are lit with low lighting and smoke added for effect, but it's tough to see what the actual sets look like, and even on the big screen it was difficult to see everything. Even the opening scene set on another world is lit in a similar way, making it unexciting to look at. When it hits Earth during the daytime scenes, they make use of warm colours, but nothing really stood out to make it pop. It didn't have the wow factor of, say, Thor Ragnarok, which is a shame, as Ben Davis, the DP, was the cinematographer on Guardians, Age of Ultron and Doctor Strange, and those films look great. It may have been a creative choice of the directors to dial back the colours and not play it so over the top, like the other Marvel films that deal with the cosmic world of the MCU. Marvel origin movies never go over the top or take that many risks with their stories. They all follow a formula and they do work and they are successful, but they never make a long-lasting impression. Iron Man is still the one that comes out on top out of all the origin films of the MCU. The rest are good but never great, and Captain Marvel follows that trend. It's a good film, I was entertained by it, there are emotional moments that worked, I laughed when the jokes hit, and I was invested in the characters for the most part, but it didn't blow my socks off and it won't break any new ground for the genre. You could say it's a filler episode of the Marvel series, and I wouldn't argue against that. As it's set in the past, it's not moving the story forward. But does it do its job at entertaining you for 2 hours? I would say yes. I would probably watch it again when it comes to Blu-ray. But I think with all of us, I think our investment in the series lies with the Avengers films. How this narrative has been carefully constructed over the years, many of the standalone films or ones that deviate from the Avengers storyline just ultimately feel a bit redundant. But despite that, they are still fun to watch. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe to see more retrospectives and commentaries. Also click on the bell to be notified of the latest reviews. If you want access to exclusive videos and to watch my content a few days before it's on YouTube, you can head on over to my Patreon. Thank you very much.